and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a horror movie review and I'll be having a look at the movie Frankenstein's Army, also known as Army of Frankenstein. So this film is set in the tail end of World War II and actually follows a group of Russian soldiers as they're sort of heading towards Berlin, and they uncover a kind of secret lab by the Nazis where they're kind of doing obviously sort of insane experiments led by the descendant of Dr. Frankenstein. And here we meet a variety of automated sort of robot zombie type things that look that they come straight out of the Wolfenstein or Bioshock video games. And basically it kind of follows the story of these kind of sort of small group of Russian soldiers as they try and discover what's going on, and once they realise, ultimately try and fight for their lives. So that's all kind of I'll really say about the plot. So what's the film like? Well, let's get the negatives first of all. This film is basically a found footage film, and I don't think it benefits from that. Let's take Realism first of all. So the film that they kind of use and the way they document it, obviously if this film is going to take place in the 40s, the actual quality of the camera and the audio and everything is going to be nowhere near like it is presented here. And unfortunately you've got a lot of shady camera, you don't get a very good sort of look at a lot of the monsters and things like that. And I think it would have benefited from a much more of a traditional style way of shooting. And I also think it doesn't help that it doesn't really bring up to the much of the characterizations of the different soldiers. They kind of seem fairly kind of bland characters really, because we don't really get much of the idea about their sort of their characters and their kind of motivations and stuff like that. And that's partially because of the way it's filmed. And if you kind of, on the subject of realism, obviously if we're looking at sort of, this is not really a criticism, it's a nitpick if anything. Obviously it's following a group of Russian soldiers, but they're all speaking English with Russian accents. Now, obviously, let's say it's going to appeal more to Western sort of audiences, but again, it kind of takes you out of that a little bit. But that, you know, I can forgive that. The real issue here, I think, it was obviously a creative decision to try and make it like a handheld camera. But it just seems one of those things like, why would you keep filming in these sort of these situations when you get attacked by these kind of like massive monsters and things like that? And like I said, it does nothing for the film. In fact, I think it takes it away. But that's the only criticism I'll really say. So what's good about this film? This film is a very, very creative film. It looks fantastic. I mean, the creature designs here, they're very much like a steampunk design. They're kind of these sort of zombies, robot type things. And don't let that put you off by sounding cheesy. They're very sort of very original look. Like I said, it reminds me very much of what the Bioshock and the Wolfenstein games. The actual sets and look fantastic, and it's got a real sort of like kind of like a pseudo gothic-y style to it. So it looks fantastic. It's very, very atmospheric, very gory, you know, and it's a very original film, I have to say. I don't remember seeing anything too much like this, I have to say. So I made me think sometimes that you look at a Frankenstein, a film with Frankenstein in the title, and you kind of think, oh yeah, you pretty much know the Frankenstein story. And I know there's a few other sort of Frankenstein adaptations that are kind of coming out, and they're sort of higher budget ones, so this one may slip under the radar because of that. But it's really very far removed from the kind of the traditional Frankenstein story that you've probably seen, you know, many times in films and stuff like that. So don't let that kind of put you off too much. It's more of a zombie film, I guess, if anything else. But you know, it's obviously a reasonably lower budget, and it maybe shows in the sort of the first part of this film, where you kind of got these sort of Russian soldiers, and they're obviously, you can kind of tell the budget's being a little bit stretched when in the kind of like the actual kind of more traditional World War II bits and stuff like that, where we don't really see too much of what's kind of going on. They're obviously trying to sort of keep the sort of the budget to what's actually happening right in front of the camera. But like I said, on the flip side of that, once they kind of discover these sort of like the secret labs and all this stuff going on, the actual set design on the other hand looks really good. And there's a few really good shots in there and really good scenes where you've just got bodies in bodies that are being experimented on. So I have to say, I really like this film. It's a real shame that they kind of made this kind of shaky fan footage film. I think that was it detracted from what could have been a pretty much perfect film, I have to say, for this level of film. But I would seriously check it out, because it's an original film. It's well made. And, you know, it's something you don't see that often, I think. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. So really enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. Go check it out. Or let me know what you thought of it. Leave me a comment and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.